Right. Okay, so once again, welcome to the leadership and ethics class. And as I said, we are looking at the nitty-gritty of the class in terms of how we're dealing with it. This is the course schedule. And as I was saying before, from the e-classroom, there are the links here for the class itself. And as we said, we're going to be meeting from 5:30 onwards from this session moving forward. This is the WhatsApp chat group. I want you to be able to link to the WhatsApp chat group just for us to be able to communicate a little more efficiently. As I said, there are 3 chapter presentations already set up here. And we'll see that the recordings for them will be set up below this point here. This section here is for assignment submissions with the marks on for each one. We'll go through that in more detail. You're all not going to see this just yet. There's a debate activity. So if in your view, you're not going to see this element here just yet. I'll open this up when it's necessary. And then, well, you're not going to see a lot of information here, but as you do your presentations, the recordings of your presentations will start to be put into the e-classroom one at a time as we do the presentations moving forward. So far, so good. You guys following that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes, sir. All right. So as you can see here, the first class is we're not going to be doing anything except planning or the rest of the semester that's going on. And the first 3 chapters, I will be presenting them on the 6th, the 13th, and the 20th of March. So for the first 3 classes, I am going to be going through the first 3 chapters of the textbook, which is really unit 1 of the textbook. So for those of you who may not have it yet, you should have downloaded the textbooks by now. Anybody downloaded textbooks?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I actually have my stuff in text. There we go. All right. So this is the primary textbook that you're looking at. So I know it's a bit huge. So I will be dealing with part 1 of the text itself, chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. Now, the chapters are fairly long. It'll be nice for you guys to do some reading in the areas, if you can, before we do the presentations. And from part 2, moving forward, exploring your potential for leadership, you guys will be picking up the teaching of the class from there. All right. So in terms of the structure of how the class is run, you'd realize that after the 20th of March, I pause on any teaching that's going on. So as I said before, there are 10 chapters that have to be presented, combining chapters from this textbook here, the main text, and the other textbook would be this one here, the Leadership Experience by Daft. Now we're using the 4th edition because it's there's no issues with the copyright infringements on this one. All right, the information really is practically the same, moving from chapter to chapter in terms of the base information. So there's no need to worry about getting the latest edition of the Daft. I think now they're probably into the 8th edition or something along those lines. I'm not sure anymore. But the information that we're looking for here is going to be pretty critical. Now, we're supposed to set up, as I said, small groups and do those presentations. They count for 30%. They begin in March and they will end on the 1st of May. All right. After we finish all of the presentations, we then move into something called a midterm exercise. And I'll detail that here for you. I'll skip assessment 2 for now. So the midterm exercise is 3 short response questions that you complete as an individual assignment. And what they are really is They're going to be questions that ask you to reflect on specific content coming out of the course from your own experiences with it, or your own sort of relationship that you find yourself having with the content from previous experiences in classes and at work and at home and in your wider experiences as we move forward. Now, that's any questions about this? This comes up only on May the 3rd. Now, assessment 4, you can actually start this now. It is sort of a self-analysis. So the idea here is that we're going to be engaging in a lot of self-reflection in this course. You are going to be required to sit and think about yourself and evaluate how you have become the person you are today. Now, one of the ways we encourage you to do that is by doing a self-analysis. In that self-analysis, you're going to be expected to kind of write about who you are as an individual. So we call it a brief but well-organized autobiography. Now, chronologically, we're not necessarily looking for it to be in chronological order, but you could use reverse chronology, whichever works out best for you. But it's more of an analytical review of who you are. So this is why we start asking questions like, what is your family history? What are your family's traditions and customs? How have these influenced your perception of leadership? So, you know, your experiences with your various members of the family, how it helps with that. When, if any time, have you realized your own potential for leadership, and who or what experiences have influenced your values and philosophies, and have any sort of mentors or critical incidents transformed you in any way or the other? Now, again, these are very personal discussions. So the idea here is that this is a private document that you're engaging in, that you will then submit to the e-classroom via this portal here. Here we have the various presentations here that you would visible by. So you would submit your self-analysis here. See the same questions here. You'd submit everything. At this point in time, there are no submissions because you guys are still at the early part. We're just starting classes. So the mid-semester assessment, which will be one of the first things that you're going to be working on. So I don't expect that these will take overnight for you to do. So the self-analysis is something that requires a lot of time. Excuse me. It takes a lot of time. So I expect that you can start this process of evaluating yourself in bits, spurts, and you know, bits and pieces along the way. But it requires you really sitting and thinking about it. Try and not leave this for the last minute, because then the evaluation, your self-analysis tends to be a bit weak. And the responses tend to be quite stunted. So something that I would encourage you to start working on almost immediately, because a lot of these things about your family history and stuff will not change. It's just a matter of you being able to capture that information and begin to process it in the form that, yes, these are the things that who I am, my parents, my grandparents. How far back you want to go is totally up to you. Some people, they want to go, they only go back as far as their immediate parents. Some people may go further back to their grandparents or their great grandparents if they know anything about that. It's also a chance for you to speak to people in your life to get a little more of your own family history and your own family tree, so that you can you know, help to develop a sense of connectivity with where you came from, because the idea is you would understand more about who you are if you understand where you've come from, and the opportunity to make positive changes in the future is based upon you being able to evaluate yourself and how you behaved in certain events took place, how you behaved during then. If you wanted to change things, then the way to do that is to really objectively reflect upon your past life. So this is part of the requirements that the course is going to do. The marking scheme for it is fairly straightforward. We're looking at an introduction and a conclusion, 5 marks apiece. Your detailed response for question 1, 5 marks, so on and so on. Now, there's not necessarily going to be the need for citation. Now, if at any point in time, you all could stop me and ask questions, right, if you want, because you're really writing the story of yourself. But if you do utilize quotations, let's say from the Bible or from other texts that you want to help support the ideas that you come across or the way in which you write your things, then please include citation for it. All right. Part of the marking is the use of language. So again, I'm looking at your grammar, punctuation, spelling, sentence construction, and choice of words that you're utilizing, as well as how you've organized the document that you put in. Your font selection should be clear, so sort of like what we're using here. There should be double line spacing in it, so that makes it easier for me to read. You must also, with all assignments, you have to have a title page. Page numbers would be required once you've passed 3 pages. And if that's the case, you'd also need to include a contents page. And again, if you look at this, you'd realize that this is a fair amount of writing. So I expect that you'd be writing the book of yourself, kind of thing. All right. So in all, it's marked out of 60%, but it counts for 20% of your final grade. So that's the self-analysis. You all have any questions on this set piece of assessment? Anybody?
Not at the moment.
All right. Well, as we get to other things, maybe we'll see. All right. So another assessment that is going to go on is this one really speaks to you reflecting upon things as we get to the near the end of the course. But there is one question here that you need to answer today. And what I would say is start a file with your reflections in terms of this question now. Put it away for now, if you understand what I mean. So the question is very simple. As you commence this course, reflect on what you are, on what are your expectations for the course, for me as a lecturer, and for yourself as a student in the course. What do you expect of yourself for this course, and what do you expect of everybody else and the course itself? So we want you to reflect on that and kind of put it away. All right. So after you finish today's class or today's session, I would before you get to the next class, I would encourage you to open up a file somewhere, and you could name it reflections or whatnot for BUSI 203, and answer this first question as completely as you think you can. When you get to the end of the course, that's when we finish the debate exercise. We will then you go back and review those expectations and start to look at whether or not you've been able to meet those expectations, or they weren't met, or they were surpassed, whatever. You want some comments about that. Then you'd be writing about what you've learned about yourself in terms of leadership. What are your weaknesses and strengths that you identified through the program or through the course of doing? What kind of philosophy you've been able to develop as a leader? How that might have changed from the beginning of the course where we start today, as opposed to where you end up at the end of the course. And identify the style of leadership you think you would like to exhibit, and any action steps, any 2 action steps that you will take to help develop that style in the future. Now, again, you might be referencing the text itself, so if you are, please add that in your citation and so on as you work through this. And again, the marking scheme is very straightforward. Similar to what you saw before. Again, it's marked out of 60, but it counts for 15% of your final grade. Okay, so the next assessment that comes up, so you realize that reflections on leadership is something that comes up at the end. but there's one part, question 1, that, as I said before, you should actually tackle this week if possible. Not if possible. I would recommend that you write up a response to question 1 immediately. In fact, you should have done it already, but we'll see how that goes on. All right. Now we'll come back to this assessment here, the debate. So we're going to be engaging in a debate activity. And this is also for 15%. And you are expected, well, we will see how many of these topics we'll be able to debate in a class. Now, the debate is going to be set up in such a way where there'll be at least 2 teams debating against each other about these topics. Somebody's going to defend the position, somebody's going to be against it, and we're going to argue it, and then we'll see how that goes on. The debate is meant for you to be able to develop your discussions of these topics that are important, because we have to deal with them, especially the one with men and women, because there's this ongoing gender issue that we seem to be facing in our society that we want to look at as a very critical issue that a lot of people think. The concept of leaders being born and not being developed, that's another thing that we want to be talking about. And the third one is about transformational versus transactional leadership, as in terms of styles of leadership. And when you start to get into the various styles, hopefully you'll be able to recognize it, if not in yourselves and other people around you, and you'd see the kind of styles that they work with. All right, so we will get into a lot more details about this once we complete all the presentations. That makes sense so far? All right. Any questions?
None for now from me.
All right. Just bring up the list of people here just in case I have. All right. So I've also done a short list here now of the dates. So I said the midterm is going to take a little time for you to do because it's a reflective exercise. Again, you're going to find you're going to be doing a lot of reflection. So I'm giving from the end of the presentation on May 1st to half the month for you all to go through that and submit into the e-classroom. The debate exercise is the last week of the semester, June the 5th. So that's kind of like a day where we will do the debate and we close off classes after that. I'm giving you all until the 18th of June, which is about a week before, a couple of weeks before the grade input deadline, for you to submit your final grades, your final assessments in the self-analysis and the leadership plan. Because as I said, the best way to really do the leadership plan in particular is after we've completed all the material. And parts of the self-analysis you can actually work on already. Once we do like chapter 2 of or chapter 4 of the presentation, you can actually get into some of that development there. Janet?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I see your mic is on. Did you have a question you wanted to ask?
I usually leave my mic on, but since you asked me, sir, I was wondering, on on the e-classroom, there's this Word document where you have, I don't know if that's part of the self-analysis, the temperament sorter, is that part of it?
Yeah, because of that, yeah, that's a personality test, but there's an easier version of that you can use online as well.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. That's this up here.
Yes.
The personality test, right? So this is the test here. This is the interpretation. But there's this easier version here, the personality test link. So if you go to that, there's one that's done online and gives you analysis, and then you have the learning style inventory test.
I actually went in and I did it.
Right. So you should already get your results from it.
Yes.
So that you could work with. Did you do the personality test as well?
Yes.
Okay. What did you end up with? What was the symbols?
I'm a defender.
Yeah, but they usually give you like a INF code.
There's a lot of stuff to read. They emailed it to me. I didn't get a chance to read it yet.
All right, okay. So as part of the presentation for chapter 4, that is going to come up, understanding self. All
Okay.
right. So maybe that's something. All right. So what we want to do now is we only have, well, technically speaking, from the list I have here, we have 18 people in class. Now, there are two ways we can do this. We can set up groups of 2. We're supposed to end up, but we'll only end up with 8 groups of pairs, or 8 pairs, right? Now that can work, but it would mean that pairs that deal with earlier presentations would have to repeat later presentations. Now that can change if we get more people enrolled. Now technically we should have groups of 3. So the other way to do this is to set up groups of 3, which will give us 6 groups. And we start to repeat after presentation 6. All right. The groups repeating for 7, 8, 9, and 10. So 4 of the groups, or we could fracture the groups and reform different groups, but we'd have to do that all at the beginning. Now, it's kind of difficult to do because the add drop period is still open. And because the add drop period is still open, it can create a problem where we have other students jumping into the classroom. And I'd prefer that we don't we don't we don't we don't kind of create a problem with that. How do you all feel about that? What do you all think? Should we start assigning group pairs instead for chapter presentations?
So I believe we should wait until after the add and drop, because
I
some of
agree.
us may even drop the course depending on what's
Yeah,
happening.
Yeah, there could be that. Colleen?
yeah, I agree with her because then we will have to choose one of the groups, and that technically will just be double working each other.
Okay. Our drop closes March the 12th.
And
So
even if we wait until after the adjunct period, wouldn't that mean we have less time to
yes, that's my point.
complete?
That's the point I was just about to make. If we wait till the March 12th, we'd already be finished. I would be finishing with chapter 2 at that point here. That will only leave you 1 week to prepare for the your presentations. I kind of prefer to set up people in groups now and adjust if we have people who leave or people who arrive and assign them accordingly. Janet,
Okay, so yeah, sounds
that
fair.
yeah.
Yeah.
The simple reason for that is because it's better that you know, okay, I have to work on chapter this, so you pick up the chapter and you read it, and that kind of stuff. That makes sense. Rather
Yeah.
than wait and then you're not sure which chapter you might end up, that kind of thing. That makes sense?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
All right, so I have a list here of the 18 people who are in class, but as I said, we have 2 people who are absent. We are recording the event, so I'm going to post the recording onto the eClassroom. So the way I do the posting is that I load it onto my YouTube channel, and then I put the link from the YouTube channel onto the classroom. That way it'll stay longer than if I put the link from Teams, because Teams tends to toss out people kind of early. All right, so the question will be, we want 2 people, and then we'll deal with the repeating element afterwards for the chapter. 2 people per chapter. So let me see if I could set this up so that you can see your names and yourselves, so that we can pull them out together. All right, so we could make this a little bigger and just have the names here. All right, so the people who are here obviously get first crack. We have 2 people who are absent. Unfortunately, they would kind of get pulled into the mix a little later. So we'll see how that works out. All right, unless of course Morrison and Rams may have arrived in class and we didn't see them. Are they here? I'm not seeing them, I'm only seeing the same thing. All right, anybody wants to volunteer? So you have now basically how it's done is this way. For each week we have 2 presentations. So on the 27th of March, we have chapter 4 and chapter 5 from this textbook here. All right. And then chapter 6 and chapter 7 following on April 3rd. So every class we have 2 chapters being presented by the teams. That you're following the method to the madness. On the 17th, we have the first chapter from the DAFT coming up. That's the leadership experience. That's courage and moral leadership. And that kind of covers a similar element that we would have looked at in chapter 6 here. Moral leadership and moral purpose. There's an overlap between the two. But on the 17th, we'll be looking at courage and moral leadership. And from the back to the exploring leadership, we'll be looking at chapter 9, being in communities. That's the 17th. Then on the 24th of April, we will then look at complex organizations from the exploring leadership textbook. And then the next DAFT chapter, which is vision and strategic direction. So those 2 chapters are here. And then we have, that's chapter 13 from the DAFT. Then chapter 12 of the DAFT comes up the following week. That's chapters, presentations 9 and 10. And that brings us to the end. On the 1st of May, we'll have power and influence, and then leading change ends the presentations altogether. But the last 2 chapters, or I should say the last 3 chapters, are all from the DAFT. You'd notice that the chapters are kind of out of sequence from the textbook, but they're in sequence for the nature of how this course is put together. So you don't need to worry about the sequencing from that perspective. That makes sense? Everybody's following me?
So, so in other words, the presentations are coming from the both textbooks. That's what I'm understanding there.
Yes, it's a combination
Okay.
of chapters from the 2 textbooks. So as I said before, I will start off by reviewing with you chapters 1 to 3, which is part 1 of the main textbook, Exploring Leadership. All right. And then we pick up from there and we go forward. Everybody, by that time, you should have an idea of what you need to be doing, how you need to be going through, possibly by looking at my example of what I'm doing and stuff like that. But you could also add your own creativity into the process of presenting newer technology you could utilize as well. I know a lot of times people want to use videos from YouTube and other sources. Again, remember, whatever you're using, you have to cite. But more importantly, you also have to pay attention to, because I'm posting it to YouTube, there can be issues with copyright. So I'll let you know, but I don't want to hamper your creativity, because remember, that's part of the marking structure for your presentation. So this says the style of delivery, use of presentation aids, that kind of stuff. Your creativity can help to make it more interactive. And therefore, I would encourage people to, when people are asking for you're asking questions during a presentation, you want to pay attention to what's going on and, help with the overall discussion that's going on. That's something that you want to be doing as well. All right. So at this point in time, I want to give you all a couple minutes to start thinking about which chapters you think you'd like to get yourselves involved with. And let me know. Ms. Bonet, how do you feel?
I'm still kind of reading them through and
Go
really
ahead. Go ahead.
pick one as.
Anybody seeing something that they think they would like to tackle? What you're looking at there is the chapter headings or titles.
So I was
Yes?
probably thinking chapter 7, teams and groups.
Teams and groups. That's presentation 4. Okay, cool. that can put you there
So
to start it off. We'd want somebody else to come with you.
I was looking at, I was looking at presentation 1.
Who's that?
Understanding self.
No. Who's saying that?
Stanisha.
All right. Okay. No
So
worries.
I'm also looking at presentation 1, understanding self.
So both you and
Janet.
Stanisha. Both you and Stanisha.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at presentation.
Hold on. Wait. Let me just finish with this one. All right. So technically, we have a team together for presentation 1. All right. So who is the next person talking there?
The Adapter, chapter 5.
Say your name again. Sorry.
Adapter Young Ao.
Oh, Young Lao. Okay. Chapter 5, Courage and Moral Leadership.
So understanding others.
Oh, chapter 5. Okay, presentation. All right, so I prefer to use presentation number as opposed to the chapter number. That's a little clearer for me in terms of doing that. All right. Anybody wants? All right, let me just find out a course board where people find themselves. All right. Anybody else has seeing something of interest that they would like to look at?
So, understanding self as well. Understanding others. Sorry.
Understanding
Colleen.
others. Who that?
Colina.
Give me a surname.
McQueen.
McQueen. All right. So you want to work with Young Lao?
Yes, sir.
Right. So you see, I have a team there already. That's 2 teams. That's good. So that's the 27th of March is sorted out. All right. I think AJ, you were going to say something.
Yeah. I would like to go with presentation 4.
Presentation 4 with Miss Bonnet.
Yes.
Miss Bonnie, I should say. All right, Miss Bonnie. Groups and teams.
I don't. So this is Naomi. I don't mind trying presentation 5.
Who's this?
Naomi Brown.
Brown. Okay. Presentation 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now I done.
Right.
So you could go on to presentation 9.
All right. You're very soft, but who's that?
Richardson.
Chelsea.
Yes, sir.
Presentation 1.
9.
9. Okay.
So Denicia, presentation 7.
Samuel Wilson. Copy. Presentation 7. Right. Okay. Anybody else?
I also like presentation 7, Manisa.
Shivani.
Yes.
So you want to work with Denicia?
Yes.
Right. So Denicia, you have a complex organizations. Okay. Interesting. All right. Who's next?
I would like to try presentation 9 as well.
Who that?
Liel Fidal.
Okay. Right. Okay. You have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, we still have some people outstanding who are here. Justin?
Yes, sir.
You seeing anything there you might like to look at?
Either it or the last one.
8 or the last one? All right. Let me put you in 8 for now, okay?
Okay.
All right, for continuity kind of thing. Justin. Okay. Jaila?
Yes, sir. I would choose presentation 8 also.
All right, so okay. What about presentation 6 and 5? We still need, and 3, we still have spaces up there. All right, I'll tell you all what we'll do in a little bit. Hold on. All right, so who's here that's not here yet? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All right, so there's still some people who haven't. Chantel, Thomas,
Yes, sir.
what you looking at?
So I'm looking at presentation 3.
Moral purpose. All right, cool. Right. Who else? Shivani is here. Oh no, you already thing.
Presentation 7.
Alicia McBurney.
So, I would also go with presentation 3.
Presentation 3. All right. Okay, that's nice. All right. We have anybody else who's? I think that's everybody here now.
Sis.
Hi, who's this?
Sparkle. I'll go with presentation 3 also.
No, yeah, you can't go with presentation 3.
Well,
There's
6.
2 people. 6. All right. All right, so what we have is, I think we have everybody here now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, all 16 of you. All right, so what I'll do now is I'll assign Morrison, Malik Morrison. Anybody's familiar with that person? To Brown. And Krishanti Ramsumer to Sparkle. All right, now that leaves us with one chapter with nobody assigned as yet. Now there are 2 ways we can do this. Once chapters presentations 1 to 5 go off, it frees up each of these groups to look at tackling. Well, let's say presentations 1 to 4. Well, let's say 5 and 6. So presentations 1 to 6. It frees up those people to be able to reassign themselves to chapter 10 or chapter 15 or presentation 10. Because you all will have the widest amount of time to be able to do that. Now, it need not be the same pair as before. It could be a new pair that comes up. Or it could be a pair that worked before in one chapter. And what I'll do is, whichever presentation gives the highest score per individual, it would be, that will be the score you get instead. So let's say you get, you do your first presentation and you get, argumentatively say, you get 75%. And then you do the second presentation and you get a 95%. Which one would you prefer to get, the 70 or the 95? Logic will dictate that you want that, right? That makes sense? That sounds fair?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. What we need to look out for, however, is whether or not Morrison and Ramsumer. Now, I've seen Ramsumer active on the e-classroom. I just don't understand what took place today. So we'd have to pay attention to these two people, and of course, whether or not more people add to the class by the next week so that we can reassign. So we'll be revisiting this schedule as we move forward. So what I will do now is I will save this and go to the e-classroom and update it with the new version now, so that way we will have the most up-to-date. Delete this one. Okay. Choose file. Don't get to see everything here. So look at Monday's class. This will be the most up-to-date version. So this should be the updated one that's on the e-classroom now with the class schedule. The final one, what I'll do when we finish it, I'll PDF it so you can't just change things unnecessarily. So as I said, the highlighted names, we have to look out to see if they turn up in class. But we have a tentative schedule of presentations. It would be nice to do by 3 because 3 makes more of a group than 2, but 2 will be manageable in that sense. Everybody's okay with where they are and what they're doing. My advice to you would be to begin by looking at the chapters. I would recommend that you look at chapter 1 at least from the main textbook. That's this one here. Look at that chapter and then look at your chapter. If you understand, if you want to do some advanced reading. Now, for those of you who prefer audio text, some of these, not all, but some of the chapters have audio presentations on YouTube. So you can look out for them as well. So, and if you do that search, you might come across some of my older videos from other classes where people did presentations and stuff like that. So it might be a little unfair, but you could look at them as well, I guess. They're there, so might as well get used to it. All right. Anybody wants to make a change or suggest anything at this point in time in terms of the schedule thus far? All right, sounds like everybody's okay. Has everybody? Yes, question.
Do you think it would be safer for me to switch to being in communities with the other person that's here in the event that one of the two that are not here?
No, I want to have at least one person each. If you understand what I mean.
Okay.
One person who's here. I expect that we should see these people next week. They don't strike me as being anybody familiar with Krishanti Ramsumer or Malik Morrison? Well, I guess not. But you see, the 17th of April, we could run into the problem where they don't turn up, but we will adjust the schedule as we develop. Right. So by the 13th, for example, we don't see these people ever coming in class, by then we'll know that they're not turning up, or we might have new people adding to the class, as I said before. So then the next question to you is how many of you all feel a bit overwhelmed at this point in time?
There's a lot to digest at the moment, but eventually we will get there.
Right, you will. But what I'm trying to say to you, it's not an overwhelming amount of material that we're looking at. Everybody's looking at a little piece, and together we are presenting to each other. So what I'm doing is I'm sharing the load of teaching. So in this class, you are going to take on the responsibility of presenting the material from the chapters to your colleagues as well as myself, because your interpretation of the chapter material will be different based upon how you go about reading it, what examples you utilize to be able to evaluate the topics and stuff like that. All right. Now, your primary methodology of presenting would actually be to use some sort of PowerPoint or one of those tools that you can utilize to present. So you take control of the screen, you will take charge, and each of the speakers will take turns presenting different elements, or working out a system in which you present parts of the textbook or parts of the topics and that kind of stuff. Now, don't get bogged down with the traditional approach of, well, you take half the chapter and I take the next half. No, it's always a nice thing to have that interaction between presenters. Especially, see, if there was more than one teacher presenting to you, moving from one teacher to another it helps to keep it fresh, keep it a little more interesting. When you're looking at my presentations, unfortunately, it's just me, so I have to do other things to try and make the presentations more interesting, because the material at times can become very heavy, because again they're speaking to a lot of concepts that are extremely cerebral in nature, and I'm not going to be dealing with any of that today. Today we're just looking at the arranging for the rest of the semester what we're going to be looking at across the board. All right. So we have the dates. I know I stopped sharing, so let me start back sharing. Any other questions? So we have the dates for the presentations, primarily set up. We have work to do on this. We have one chapter that we still have to assign for the May the 1st. The document, what I'll do with the midterm exercise is that I will load the midterm exercise into the e-classroom. So when you click on the mid-semester assessment, the document will be right here for you to download, but I'll go through that with you before. It's nothing, it's not a test. It's not an exam. It is a form of reflection that I spoke about before. All right. Anybody wants any more clarification or anything? Again, feel free to ask questions. Yes, no, maybe.
I don't have any questions at the moment, so
but
maybe when we start already getting to the material, some questions may come up.
All right. Well, from next week, what we're going to be doing is we'll be starting from 5:30, as I said before. That way, it'll give the people who are working and trying to get home a little more time to get in and get settled. As I said, we'll be recording the session. So once the recordings are done, I will post them to the e-classroom so that people can review them at their own leisure if they've missed any element of it, or if they just simply want clarification on certain things. But I will encourage you as much as possible to ask questions. Stop me and ask questions for clarification, because the material is always going to be there in the textbooks, on the screens and stuff like that. So if you want any form of clarification, the best time to get it is when I'm here. Now, everybody in this class so far has been added to the e-class, to the WhatsApp chat.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Yes,
why
sir.
I was wondering if, just going to check here for a second and see, I have 16 participants. So that's all 16 of you here.
I have not joined yet, so I will join as soon as class is over. Sorry.
Who's that? Janet?
Chantal Thomas.
No, sir, I'm there.
Okay. Okay, so there's somebody who's here who's not in class. I can't tell because there are no names on the Well, I do see a name, Chanel Human Resource Officer. All right. I'm hoping
Yes,
the other.
that's
That's you, yeah. Maybe I will. Now we know. Yeah. All right. Okay, so does anybody at this point in time have anything they want to ask? For clarification purposes, or want to see again, or want to query about? We'll have an early day today, so to speak, but next week we'll probably do the full 3 hours. All right, so some.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
For the presentation, each member of the group is required to present on that day?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right. How do you expect to teach the class if you're not here?
No, I mean like each one have to have to play, or just one person presenting the final documentation, or is it that both of them have to present one after the other?
No. You can use a shared document. So you create a shared document, but when I say both persons or both parties are taking part in the presentation, it means that one person could be moving the slides and the other person could just be talking. And you don't have to have both parties taking different things. So you share the responsibilities up, and you see, basically, when you're in a team, the team becomes the resources, right? And you have to work out how best to use the resources you have. So, for example, you might find that in the group that you have, one person is better at presentations and speaking than the other, but that means maybe that person who is not necessarily as good with verbal presentations and stuff will um, might be better or better at designing slides and that type of stuff. So you understand, you have to work to the strengths that you have in terms of the resources you have with. So I would encourage you all to get in contact with each other, and try to start to feel out each other and start to work on how you're going to get things done. The strategies you utilize will be totally up to you. But yes, it'll be best if both parties or all the members of the group are present during the presentation, because one person might start to falter a little bit and the other person could step in and assist across the board. Now, some chapters are longer than others, so let's talk about some time frames here now. Because some chapters are longer than others, it may mean that, for example, chapter 4 and chapter 5 are fairly short, straightforward chapters. So we may be able to get your chapter presentation done within 45 minutes. Each one might be 45 minutes. So by maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours into the class, we'll be finished with presentations for that day. If we finish, then there's no need for us to keep on going and flogging a dead horse kind of thing. So we could end for that evening. But on other days, when we're dealing with more chapters that are fairly long and well developed, or still well developed, but have a lot more material in it, we might find that we are looking at a longer time frame to deal with it. So like the chapters from the DAF tend to be a lot more involved. Okay. And therefore they may have a tendency to be a little longer in their presentations. Now, something that I didn't talk about as well, on the e-classroom, when you finish your presentations, you're going to upload the PowerPoint presentations that you but only upload them after we finish, because just in case you have to make any changes or adjustments, I'd like to discuss it with you. So what happens is, after you make your presentations, I will then speak to each group privately and give them their feedback and scores immediately after you finish your presentation. So you're going to know almost immediately how well you did for the presentation. All right, so you're going to get immediate feedback at that point, so that you know whether or not you want to say, hey, we need to try a different chapter to get a better grade, kind of thing like that. So it may become apparent to different individuals as their presentations come across that they would really like to have a second bite of the apple to get a better grade. You follow what I'm talking about? All right. Because at the end of the day, what I want everybody here is to have a good experience with the material. This class is not going to be about passing. It's going to be about going through the experience and developing some of these leadership models in your minds and trying to develop the muscles that are required for developing good leadership in the future and in your current lifestyle. How many of you all are parents here? Show of hands. One person that, all right, so we have 3, 4. Good, because you'd understand that being a parent is a leadership role. Now, you may not be a biological parent, but you could also have parenting responsibilities in your own family, depending upon the nature of what's going on. Ms. McBurney, you have your hand up as a remnant of the last question I asked, or you have a question you want to ask? Alicia?
No, sir, I didn't take it down. Sorry about that.
But that's okay. It happens. No, it's not a problem. Not a big deal. All right. Right. So we talked about only uploading your group presentation tools or presentations after I've given you your score. Don't load it before. That is in the e-classroom. On average, you have about an hour and a half per group for a chapter presentation. So, but as I said before, some chapters might take the entire hour and a half, but other chapters might take 45 minutes or 30 minutes, depending upon how you go through the material and how well you've been able to bring it across. But understand that there is a significant amount of material that you're going to be going through to be able to present the information. And you want to do things in the presentations to try and make them interesting and get people involved with some of the concepts and ideas and help to develop some of the thinking. All right. As I said, I'm going to try to illustrate some of these things in the presentations I do over the next 2 chapters, so that you get an idea of what to do. All right. And as we move through, we'll start to understand more and start to learn more about the ideas and become more comfortable. I want you to be able to converse with each other easily, so that you can, you can ask the questions you want to ask without having to worry about, anybody, or you feeling funny about asking questions and that kind of stuff. As such, you can also utilize the e-classroom, the WhatsApp chat group to ask questions within the group, or you could message me privately if you want, or you could message other people, like the people in your teams that you've currently set up, to be able to start to communicate with each other and say, let's look at the chapter, or let's arrange a meeting now for, let's say, the 13th of February, when March, I should say, not February, so that you could have you give yourself a time frame to read chapters and kind of get together and what do you think, how you feel about this material, that kind of stuff. What are your ideas about presenting and so on? You follow what I'm talking about? You don't want to be making decisions. Again, you're working in a smaller group, so it should be a little more manageable because it'll be only one individual dealing with. But at the same time, you can't take a high-handed approach to the whole thing. All right. All right. I've been yammering on. Anybody has any other questions that they want to ask? Yes. Miss Bonnie.
So you asked us what is our animal at the
Yes.
beginning of the class.
I'm
You
co-
didn't tell us what is yours.
Me, my animal, I'm a teddy bear.
Okay.
All right. I was actually going to come back to that list in a little bit. So as to tell you what the significance of what I'm talking about, or what your answers have told me a little bit about you. All right. Any other questions, or you're all anxious to hear my interpretations of your selections?
So I want to hear the interpretation of this.
Would like to hear the
Selection.
interpretation.
You would, okay. All right. So
Yes.
so let's start with the
That's a very good question.
Miss McBurney.
Yeah.
What
I said
question?
she asked a very good question. We
Oh,
wanted
she,
to know what animal you would have been to.
I'm a teddy bear. That's what I said.
Yeah, a bear.
A teddy bear. Not a bear, a teddy bear.
A bear, that's an animal.
No, remember I said you could be fictional, right?
Okay, you got me.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so let me group some of these together because they speak a little bit to each other. So we have the Black Panther, the grizzly bear, the wolf, the lioness, and the lion. Those are predators. What do we know about predators?
So they hunt for prey.
Uh-huh. But what is something else that we know about predators?
They are in survival mode.
Survival mode?
Yeah.
They're dominant.
That's what's there.
Dominant, yes.
So people who tend to choose those types of animals are speaking a little bit to their personalities, that they are the hunter-gatherer, they are the hunter in that. Now, this always speaks to in relationships, and this is what I mean when we start to talk about some of the psych stuff that was going to go on in this class. In relationships, you're either going to be a predator or you're going to be prey. Now, so the people who chose these predatory type of animals are Miss Bonnet, Sparkle, Mendoza, and Samuel Wilson. And I want you to think about yourselves. And you don't have to tell me anything, but in your relationships, are you the predator or are you the prey? That's a good question that you can ask yourself. Now, so to me, that tells me that you view yourself as being very dominant, outgoing type of individual who likes to take charge. All right, especially the lioness, because the lioness, the Black Panther, the grizzly bear, they're all dominant animals that will take charge and beat the crap out of everybody around them, right? Now, we have a little bit of a problem here because we have a cooler bear. Now, technically a bear, that's AJ, a bear is supposed to be an aggressive animal, like the grizzly bear, predatory. But the koala bear is not. The koala bear is seen as small and cute and cuddly. Isn't that so, Mr. Gopal?
Yes.
All right. So this is like you are positioning yourself from a personality position as you'd like to be seen as somebody who is easygoing, sociable, and comfortable to be around. I'm not going to say if it's correct one way or the other, but that's the impression I'm getting. Oh, sorry, I should have also put in here the person who, all right, well, I'm going to put the person in here, but the person who chose the wolf, Jailal, Now you said you chose the wolf because they look like dogs and they are but they're predators. Wolves are, large, powerful beings. But you don't sound like you want to position yourself as a predator. You like the image of the wolf. But what comes out to me, Crystalline is, or Krista, can I call you Krista?
No problem.
Yeah, all right, Krista, is the need to be independent.
Yes.
Yeah, because wolves tend to be known as being loners. All right, and that's something that is interesting about the choice that you have. The koala bear, as I said before, is somebody who's looking for acceptance, cute, cuddly, and that type of stuff. The mermaid is a little bit of a quandary because the person, Naomi, you had a difficulty in choosing whether or not you wanted to be the Disney princess or the
No,
fabled.
I don't want to be a Disney princess mermaid because that's not realistic to me.
Right, okay.
I
But
also don't want to be seen as, I'm just gonna come and kill you and flip over your boat. And so I'm not like a murderer, so I'm like, because you see, they either show you they're like, all sweet and kind and all that, or they either just murder us all the time. But
yeah,
why can't it be in between?
you see, and this to me speaks to you want to appear to be um beautiful, and it's almost as if you want to be sociable, but at the same time you're hiding a darker part of you in the image of the mermaid. So you're a person that we need to look out for, Naomi.
That interpretation was on point. I'll give you that, sir.
Oh, good. All right. So Stanisha, you chose the only primate, I think, in the grouping here. You want to be the chimpanzee. That tells me that you prefer to be seen as intelligent and capable. Yes?
Yes, that's it. That's true.
All
Nobody
right.
can intimidate me, try to outsmart me, no type of way. Always one step ahead of everybody.
Right, yes. In fact, you would be the one, you would prefer to be the one outsmarting everybody rather than them outsmarting you.
Yes.
All right. Interesting. Um, we have after chimp, we have the eagle. Now the eagle, Alicia, this speaks to any bird, eagles and the dove. But there's a diametrical issue here because eagles are predators. They're very powerful and they're dominant. So that speaks to you and your dominant role. But eagles are also farsighted and can see the broad picture of things because they're so high above everybody else, because they soar above. So there's something more esoteric about being an eagle than just being a predator. So it's sort of like the ultimate predator kind of thing. How do you feel about that, Alicia?
You're correct.
Okay. All right. Kind of on. Now another misnomer here is Shivani. Shivani is still with us, right? You wanted to be a Bombay cat or a Black Panther, but the main point of the situation was being black. You wanted to be a black cat. Is that correct, Shivani?
Yes, the black cat.
Okay. As long as you're a cat. So the issue here is not so much about the predator nature of the cat, but the fact that the cat is dark black. It's almost as if you want to be a Luna. You want to be, it's telling me almost that you want to be looked upon and left alone. to be independent and individualistic. Don't know if I'm reading that right, but there's a you see there are two parts to it. The black cat is a lovable creature, but with any cat, if you've ever dealt with cats, you can't be overly play with a cat will get fed up with you and just say hold your tail and goes away. That's how cats are. The cats are very independent. You are more at odds with them than they are with you. So I don't know if that really speaks to who you are. But to me, the fact that you wanted the cat to be black is a critical element for you in terms of speaking to who you are as an individual. Speaks to something that could be worrisome. That you'll have a little darkness around you, but it's something that maybe you might want to talk to me about later on your own. We'll see how that works out. Right, Shivani?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we have two sea turtles as well. That's Justin and Chelsea. Now, sea turtles are interesting in the sense that they're not predators. They tend to be prey, but they're difficult to deal with because they have very thick skins, or they have a shell on their back and able to withdraw from the world and be alone and be safe. And I'm hoping that is not absolutely the case with Justin and Chelsea, having chosen the sea turtles. But to me, it is that you've been battered a little bit in your life and you feel as if you would like to think of yourselves as being thick-skinned and being able to withstand a lot of external pressure out there. Generally, this selection usually speaks to having been bullied in the past. You don't have to say it's right or wrong, but it's a matter of how I'm interpreting your choice of sea turtles. You guys okay with that, Mohammed and Richardson?
Yes, sir.
Justin? All right.
Yeah.
Richardson?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. We have the dove is similar to the eagle, but the dove is not. It's the opposite of an eagle. The dove is not predator, but it's more prey. But for you, I think the symbolism, Ms. Vidal, is what is more important. The purity of life around you, the peacefulness. That is something you strive for, peacefulness in your life. It may not be something that you're getting, but it's something you want. Vidal is?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. But it could also speak to your personality, that when you're around people, you're like your stabilizer. You stabilize people around you. Or that's something that sea turtles do as well. They have a tendency to be a calming effect on others around them. All right. We have a couple of dogs, right? I'll deal with the rich dog, and Chantel, I'll deal with you separately, and then I'll deal with the giraffe. The dog is synonymous with, as you all talked about, loyalty and friendship, and absolute devotion to somebody. That's what you would like us to see about you, that you're a loyal person, a loyal friend. That's something you want to do. That probably describes Chantel better. Yes, maybe Chantel.
Very correct, sir.
All right. Now the other person, McQueen, you want to be a rich person's dog, primarily for selfish needs. So interestingly enough, what that tells me is that you tend to be a very self-oriented individual. You're very careful about yourself and making sure you protect yourself and get what is necessary for you. Yes, maybe.
Actually,
Say again?
the why The reason why I would have chosen the rich person's dog specifically is because I've been taking care of everybody else and leaving me out, and now I want to
Yes, and
accept.
that's generally where it comes from, because you come from a background where you've been everybody else's um
Go-to person.
yeah, you've been the person for everybody. You want somebody for you.
Exactly.
That's what you want. You're looking for, listen, it's my time to be looked after now. That's why I want to be a rich person's dog. I understand that because sometimes being the person that everybody goes to is overwhelming. I mean, it's just, I'm young, I have a life to live. I can't be, giving my life over to everybody else's needs and putting my needs on the back burner all the time. You need that, which is interestingly enough, you're going to look for that in relationships, and that could put a lot of pressure on relationships. So you're coming into a relationship with some serious baggage there. Be careful with that.
Yes.
You have children,
I have a son. He's 8.
and do you have a husband to go along with that?
No, I do not.
Did he choose not to be there? Or did you choose not to be there?
Um, I would like to say he chose not to be there, but I think I would have had a part in it too.
Yeah, it is not a one-way street all the time, but
Yeah.
you understand that because you're a mother and you are living your life for your child. How old is he? 8 years, you said?
8 years, yes.
Yeah, he's in a mummy mode. And
No, he's
unfortunately,
that mode actually.
no, he, regardless of how independent he is, he's still very dependent on mommy.
Yeah.
Right? Now, you may have good support structure around you, which is a good thing. But
Mm,
that support structure is also something you have to support too.
yeah.
And that creates a little difficulty for you. So good luck with that, because you have a lot of baggage when you come to relationships that you have a big need in your life. I hope someday I hope more importantly that you could find that you could be your own person, your own provider. Let's hope for that rather than depending upon other people, because other people always let you down. All right?
Agreed. Okay, so
Yeah.
thank you.
No, hitting too close to home, huh? All right. So the last person is Young Lao, and a giraffe is not something that I've ever really come across too often. Giraffes are, tall and lanky, and they they hang above everybody else. So what that gives me the impression of, in terms of, you would like to be seen as being unaffected by other people around you, that you are very independent and apart from everybody. I don't know if that is a good take on what you're talking about. Miss Younglao?
Um, in a way, sir, yeah.
Yeah, because you already have such um a unique name, or names, I should say. I don't know what you look like, but it looks and sounds as if you have a very unique lineage, which means you may stand out in a crowd. And maybe you feel that way as well, that people are always taking notice of you because of who you are as a person. Um, if that's the case, my dear, be proud, because most of us are just part of the background. All right. Okay, just an interesting exercise in terms of getting to know you guys. Um, as I said, I'm a teddy bear. Generally, what that tells people is that I would like to be sociable and lovable, and um, but teddy bears, like all bears, have a backlash. Um, Even koala bears, if you poke and prod the teddy bear too much, they turn around and bite you. Okay. All right, guys. Anybody has any questions they want to ask before I wrap it up?
No, sir, but I like this. I like this.
Exercise?
This. Yes, I liked it.
All right.
I like.
Actually, if you do the personality test, that's on the e-classroom, the online one, um, uh, It's a lot like that, but wait until we do the chapter on understanding self before you do that. Although some people may have jumped the gun already, but it's something that you could look at. All right. All right. So I'm going to stop the recording now. How do I find that?